And yo, the Sports Back Bros podcast is back on. Guess what? A Tuesday. You're normally on Mondays and Thursdays, but we're here on Tuesday following a big week of sports, depending on how you look at big week of sports. I guess boxing wise, which it seems like a core of our group is our audience, they're interested in boxing. I guess Usyk, still is the big thing that's going on. I've seen a lot of the videos on it, people still breaking it down, even though the fight happened on Saturday. Well, I don't think there's any question now. The most dominant heavyweight champion of this era, a watered down era, but it doesn't take away from him being a cruiserweight having to move up. I think that's what balanced it out. So much more going on. The NFL finally coming here. College football, yeah, it's still in the background. All of the media days seem to be over. So we're going to talk about that probably at some point or another. But what's good?
What's good, man? I was waiting for you yesterday. What happened? No, I know what happened.
Oh, anyway. Yeah, headaches.
Yeah, I wasn't too excited about the boxing. I didn't care about Pacquiao coming back. Barrios, okay, let me say it correctly. Barrios is he's a good fighter, decent fighter.
Decent at best.
Nothing to write home about. So I didn't care about the result in that fight. And Usyk was fighting Dubois again. I don't see the big deal in it. I mean, okay, he knocked him out, but what has Dubois ever done?
Yeah, but I think now in the mundane heavyweight division in particular, and not really having a clear best fighter, now we do. I thought Usyk skill-wise was going to be the best clear fighter because having more skills as a lighter fighter, bringing them up to the heavier ranks, I thought he would be that guy. What Tyson Fury did, was it completely skill or him just doing more than you expected being so big? But he certainly, Usyk certainly is the number one heavyweight out of all of them. Going into the week, we talked about it last week. It was no real big deal. Nothing really to talk about. I think after the fact is what made people kind of bubble over and make this more important than I think it should have been. Or is it really that important in the pantheon of boxing today? Manny Pacquiao coming back, fighting Barrios, and fighting well enough after being off for 4 years, getting a majority draw. I mean, Paulie Malignaggi had said it. Other experts have said it. Why not just give him the win? He's done all of this, has gone through what he has gone through just to get back only 2 months of a training camp. And he goes this far and goes this hard against a tentative Barrios, a Mexican fighter. When was the last time you heard of a tentative Mexican fighter? And then he just loses by this, not even loses, but you might as well call it a loss considering what he came back for. But he should have been named the champ.
The funny thing to me is he's calling out Mayweather.
You know what? And I can see why, because I can see why that might bubble. It's not going to have the anticipation that it had before. Maybe for Filipino fans, it may, because they're going to ride with Manny regardless. But
there's a lot of FOMOs out there too.
A lot of FOMOs. But are they the ones crying for it? Because I think
it's not an entire country like the Philippines, but there's a whole lot of FOMOs.
There absolutely are. But I'm wondering now, because they've seen how Pacquiao, even though he doesn't look like the Pacquiao of old, it was more him winning. I think it was Barrios losing because he wasn't aggressive enough than Pacquiao winning or helping get a draw. That I don't think Mayweather fans really want to see that, because Mayweather's been fighting a whole bunch of kind of like Jake Paulish kind of fighters, all of these exhibitions, nothing really serious. Manny Pacquiao comes in after 4 years, serious business, title shot, going to get, the commission going against their own rules to give him that title shot, and he looks like a real fighter. Even though a slower fighter, a real fighter. Can Floyd be more of what we remember of him after all of these years off from being serious and just having these exhibitions? I don't think his people want that.
I don't think it happens, because Floyd knows if he fights Manny Pacquiao again, they can't charge $100 for pay-per-view.
Absolutely not.
He's not going to get a minimum $100 million. He's always been high reward, low risk, and I mean, to hear you tell it, it's a risk.
It is a risk. This time it is.
Why take that fight? And especially since he has Roy Jones calling him out too.
Oh man, yeah. Now that may be one of those exhibitions he doesn't want either.
If he's gonna troll Roy, damn, that's tough to roll off the tongue. Troll Roy.
It's like a name.
And Roy's calling him out. He has to respond in some way. That doesn't mean he has to fight him, who
No,
has to respond. We'll
but I
see what
think
happens there. But um, Floyd, he's got the undefeated record. We say he lost to Castillo. Some say he lost to Maidana. I don't agree with that.
no, I think it
Best
was
I could
close as
give
hell.
Maidana the first fight was a draw, but he hangs his hat on being undefeated in
Yep,
TPE. He don't want to take an L, especially it don't matter if he's 43, 45. I don't even know how old he is.
50.
He's
Dude's gonna
50.
be
No,
50 soon.
he don't want to take an official L at 50. Those exhibitions, if they really kept scoring, he lost. It doesn't go on his record. But if he
Nope.
fights Roy, that's a real fight.
That's gonna be a real fight. Roy's naturally bigger, even though they're both old. Roy's a lot older, but man, Roy's been, at least against Mike Tyson and all those other fighters. But looking at what Floyd Mayweather has done since he's come back, or since he's been doing these exhibitions, he hasn't done a lot of what we've seen him do in boxing. I mean, the reflexes, because Mother Nature just doesn't lose fights, still undefeated. The reflexes aren't what they used to be, and they shouldn't. Being heavier doesn't help at all. He stays in good shape for his age, in good shape for a former fighter, but he's doesn't have even to take care of a Roy Jones who hits harder, and if he gets hit at all in a however many rounds they set it up for, 8 rounds, hell, 5 rounds, when they're throwing things out like that.
The thing about it is he can try and do his pot shotting, hold and push with his elbows and all that. Roy's not going to fear anything Floyd throws
Nope,
at him.
nothing.
And Roy's just going to try and overwhelm him with volume and power.
And I think he can
I
at this
think
point.
at some point he probably catches him and clips him.
Yep, and exactly. The only fighter I see that's been calling out Roy that's still an active fighter has been Canelo. Canelo, kind of subtly calls him out. How
Canelo
about
called out
fighting him now?
Roy?
No, huh?
Canelo called out
No,
Roy?
no, Canelo calling out Floyd. Calling out Floyd.
Okay.
Why did he fight me again? I'm in my prime now. Well, he was saying that when he was in his prime, but I think he'll still take that fight now if it became an opportunity for him. Yeah, but Floyd, right now, based on what he's been doing with these exhibitions and now seeing Pacquiao just coming out of the woodwork after 4 years, and I mean, for all intents and purposes, this was looking good. And it's legitimate to think that he can only look better if he has another fight. Now, there's going to be a wall somewhere, but when you're both that old, there's a wall for everybody. So even Floyd Mayweather may hit a wall to where he's not going to be able to perform at all or on any type of elite level, even for exhibitions. I'm thinking that's a fight he needs to stay away from if people start clamoring. But with his financial situation being what it's been, all the talk at least about his financial situation and people who are in the know, like Rick Glazer, who could say something. I know all these other people who are Flomos, as you call them, they're going to say Rick doesn't know what he's talking about unless Rick says Floyd's the greatest ever. Now Rick knows what he's talking about. That's just how they are. If he's saying all this stuff and he's locked over in Dubai, can't get out of here because his plane is locked down because he owes money, a fight with Pacquiao, even though it wouldn't be financially what it was when they fought the first time, it'll be enough to kind of calm down the tax people and everybody else he may owe money to.
That's true. I don't know how true that talk is. Obviously Floyd came out and debunked it, or at least
defended himself. That's it.
He disputed it. I don't know if he debunked it, but if he needs money, I think the safe route would be Pacquiao. What kind of weight stipulation would he have to fight Roy anyway? He's gonna make him come down to 160. Roy ain't coming down to no 160. So I don't think that's ever going to happen.
But he let Logan Paul come in like 180 pounds. But that was Logan Paul.
Yeah, that's Logan Paul.
Yeah, he won't let no Roy Jones, as old as Roy is. Roy still got that dog in him for an old dog. He still got a little bit of skill left to be able to make things interesting.
Did you watch the Pacquiao fight?
Oh, nah. I watched just highlights of it because I had no interest in it, but I heard a lot of talk about it.
Well, my friend called me, asked me if I was watching. I was like, hell no. He's like, man, Barrios, he was questioning why he wouldn't follow up when he landed good punches. And I said, well, I'm not watching, so I can't really comment. But he said he heard him like twice or 3 times, and he never followed up. I said, well, maybe they agreed that he wouldn't knock him out. I don't know.
I doubt that. You could probably pull that with these American
But, I mean,
opponents.
if you're Barrios and you see Pacquiao hurt, you
got to get him.
You got to go for I'm taking out the legend. Yes,
That's exactly what you're thinking. And people outside who don't understand these kinds of things, especially on even that high level, regardless of how long Pacquiao has been out, he's still fighting on a high level. If you're fighting for a title, even if it's just a belt holder, that doesn't get a whole lot of respect, because I know after the fight, everybody came after Barrios. You talk about Paulie Malignaggi was leading the way. I could have beaten this guy in my prime with one hand behind my back. And based on what most people were saying, I think that's probably some legitimacy said right there. But I'm just thinking that if you have a legend hurt, you go after the legend because it's only going to help you in your next fight. Manny Pacquiao made at least $12 million for this fight. And now his part of the pay-per-views over the next several months are going to trickle in, because that's how pay-per-view money goes. So $12 million, there's been stories about him and his financial issues in the past. That's a whole lot of money coming in for him if he does have those financial issues in the Philippines, as they claim he did have at one point.
I'm thinking about Barrios, and I'm wondering, does he at all feel embarrassed?
He should.
Right. I mean, to get a draw with the dude who hasn't fought in 4 years and is 40-some years old. What
47.
47?
46, 47, man. Take either or number, man. That's just that's unacceptable.
I know it's Manny Pacquiao, but that's not your daddy's Pacquiao, man.
That's your granddaddy's Pacquiao. That's who it is. And, once again, I keep referring to Paulie because I think he had the clearest analysis of what had happened. He was like, this is a guy who calls himself the Aztec warrior. He said, man, somebody from Mexico needs to take that away from him. He embarrassed him. He shouldn't be called the Aztec
He's
warrior.
Not actually from Mexico. Ain't he from like New Mexico or Arizona?
Barrios, I think he's an American, but he's tied deep into Mexico, even more than what Oscar De La Hoya claimed to be. He's like Fernando Vargas, you know what I mean? He still has a whole lot of pride in his heritage. And, and a lot of Mexican Americans who box, they do have that type of pride, and they fight with that on their shoulder. They look at that as their calling card, being tough, being gritty, not giving up. And he did everything, all the above. He didn't necessarily give up. He just didn't give a lot, like he's known, what should have been known to do. And it ended the way that it ended. But now, going back to Usyk, beating Dubois, I think that it's such a mediocre heavyweight division now, to the point to where, well, a win is a win. And for the people who are leading this weak pool of heavyweights, he beat those guys. Tyson Fury was the better of the heavyweights, but if you look at him in the grand scheme of things, like going back, could he have competed in the 90s? I don't think he's really successful in the 90s. Riddick Bowe gets him, Lennox Lewis gets him, Ike Ibuchi would get him. I think even David Tua would have got him. Chris Bird would have been a problem for him. There's so many people you could have named. Chris Bird?
Against Fury?
Against Fury, I think Chris Bird would have been a pain in his ass.
Chris Bird, yeah, he was a problem.
And I could believe Ibuchi probably would have KO'd him.
But David Tua, I think he's too small.
But David Tua at least gave you enough pressure. He didn't let you just lean on him either. And he still had that power, just like if you let a virtually unskilled fighter like Deontay Wilder catch you late, like he did in the first fight.
He had power, but when he really stepped up to the top class, he didn't hurt Lennox. He didn't hurt Ibuchi.
Oh no! Lennox I think Lennox bruised his rib in that fight, so that kind of slowed him down. Now I could be a Ibuchi.
I'm just saying, I'm talking to Tua's power.
Yeah, his power. Well, some of these guys are hellified, taking hellified punches. I could be a Ibuchi, could take a hell of a shot. And so I think that kind of speaks for that. He took a hell of a shot, and they set the heavyweight record. I wonder if it's still the heavyweight record for the most punches thrown in a heavyweight fight. They've just fought a 10-rounder. They went at it and they were able to go at each other both times.
Phone booth.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember when David Tua was losing to Hasim Rahman, and then got that late punch at the end of the round, and then came back the following round to finish it off. The ref let him get away with that late punch, and Hasim Rahman didn't completely recover. Came back in his next round and got knocked out over it. But I think David Tua would have, at least if nothing else, been a real problem for Tyson Fury. But looking at this litany of people, Anthony Joshua looks the part, but he's not as good. I can't say he's bad because he's the best of what they have now, but he wasn't doing much of it.
I just hope Usyk doesn't fight Ngannou, man. Fury fought him. Joshua fought him. I don't want to see Usyk fighting Ngannou.
Oh, Usyk. I really
don't know who's out there for Usyk.
Well, exactly. That's the point. Well, Joseph Parker, because he's been in the same kind of streak as Dubois now. Dubois was looked at as somebody who lost his heart after, I believe, the Joyce fight. And then they talked about how he didn't want to fight. He didn't have any heart. And then it kind of resurfaced again against the first time against Usyk when they claimed he didn't want to get up. As soon as the count went up, he gets up and he goes to his corner. A lot of the same this time around. But then it seems like he had some kind of a renaissance where something finally clicked and he just got some momentum, beat 3 fighters in a row, decent fighter for today's standards, and culminating with AJ. And then you think that he deserved it. And I even went on a limb and said, you know what? Because of that low blow, that alleged low blow, that was a body shot, and Usyk didn't like it. And we're seeing that those Ukrainian guys don't like those body shots. Loma didn't like the body shots. This might be something. He may go after the body first. Usyk completely changed the game plan and didn't allow him to get to the body. It was countering the hell out of him, made him tentative. And then he started questioning himself in the back of his mind, it seemed, because his attack just was different than the last time. And then pretty much the result, same result. And in fact, earlier he gets knocked out. So I got sucked into saying he's on the momentum. He has momentum going. He has a lot of confidence. It's the most confidence he's ever had, which it seemed like. And Usyk just put a halt to it. And that was that. It surprised me. So
looking at the title, what would we consider a top or all-time great heavyweight? Where do we draw the line? Top 10, 15?
Oh,
20?
Well, I've said that before about there's about 100 all-time greats. It's just like they say, there's levels to this. So there's all-time greats. You could talk about Willie Pep is an all-time great, but he's not top 10. Well, in most people's rankings, he won't be top 10, but it doesn't take away from him being great. You can name other great fighters.
I don't agree with that. He's in my top 10.
Jose Napoles, another great all-time great, but he's probably in that 50, 60, 70 area of being an all-time great.
I'm talking as far as heavyweights.
No, heavyweights.
As many. The list has to be shorter.
I think
all weight divisions.
Oh yeah, but Usyk is different. Usyk is different because he was one of those cruiserweights who came up and dominated. Even if this is a weak heavyweight pool, there's still a difference. And like people want to say conveniently, they have weight classes for a reason. They do have weight classes for a reason. So when you go from cruiserweight, then fighting the new age heavyweights like Tyson Fury, 280, 260, AJ 235, 240, and you're beating those guys twice. He did what a lot of these other guys like Deontay Wilder and Fury and AJ were supposed to have their round robin. He just came up and just beat them all. With the exception of Wilder, and I don't think Wilder even mattered.
So
what would happen?
If we're not going to recycle heavyweights to find a good opponent for him, who do you think would be a good opponent?
He needs to
Beterbiev?
I think, because it will take Beterbiev some time to get used to being a heavyweight. It'll take more time.
I'm just saying.
And right now, Usyk's age himself being an older guy. So when that fight finally
comes on, what matchup would people get excited about?
Because it wouldn't be Joseph Parker. It wouldn't be Joseph Parker.
That's what I'm saying. If it's
he's
Parker,
a fairly born fighter himself.
A lot of people are gonna say who? Hardcore boxing fans would be like, okay,
yeah,
decent fight, but he's gonna beat him.
How about
what's gonna get people excited?
Man, I want to say Andy Ruiz because he's always been my ace in the hole. But the way he comes into fights and the things that he does when he gets to the fights is not what he was doing before. He still has that dog in him, but I think the skills are eroding with him.
Does he have that dog in him though? Because I was so disappointed in him. Like he showed it in the first fight with AJ. No, the second fight with AJ.
Oh yeah,
man, he was on his Buster Douglas tour.
When he went 1 or 2 rounds,
just eating and having a good time. I'm the champ. Thought he was just gonna show up, land a couple punches, and knock him out. He was not prepared at all to go 12 rounds. He made no adjustments in that fight. He got totally dominated and embarrassed.
I was more impressed that even with all of that going on, he still went 12 rounds. And then there was times where he even grazed AJ, and I know AJ's chin isn't the best. That he gave him a little bit of the giraffe legs a little bit and made AJ have to open his eyes wider and throw more punches and try to keep him off. So I was surprised about that. But let me see. Carlos is here.
Yeah, I just don't I lost a lot of respect for Ruiz. The old adage that fighters get better after they win their championship.
I think
he's the exception to that.
He's the exception. He's
Yeah.
the exception because I remember James Toney was that same fighter. I'm not even going to act like I knew all of this about James Toney before he fought Michael Nunn. I just saw that he fought Michael Nunn. I was like, what? You let that guy beat you? And then when he came back, he fights. I think he fought Reggie Johnson and got knocked down. But then he also had that tough fight with the Sunday school teacher Dave Tiberi, which he flat out lost that fight. That's a fight we should be looking at and just scoring that fight over. He lost that fight to Dave Tiberi, the Sunday school teacher from Delaware. But then, you know, he kind of gotten serious. It was more weight for him than it was him not being interested. I guess it kind of goes both ways. It was the weight issue for him because once he got it together, man, that Iran Barkley fight was
too
serious
much Burger
business.
King. Burger King.
He shouted out Burger King after fights. That's when we knew we had a problem. My man was giving Burger King shout outs. And I remember
what's funny, getting back to Roy and Floyd, Roy is saying he already solved the Philly shell or the shoulder roll.
Oh man, I don't want to hear that.
He said he's claiming that Tony was better at it than Floyd. I can't agree with that.
No, not even. You know, God, and it's not Roy's fault. James Toney didn't come into that fight 100% of the shit. We knew about the diuretics he had taken to lose the weight because he's always been lazy when it came to that. He didn't do road work. He started doing it in his latter years, like really latter years when he was pretty much irrelevant as a contending fighter. He started doing road work then. Back then, he just sparred his way into boxing shape. He got himself into fight shape, but not into boxing shape because boxing shape would be the conditioning and then the sparring. Fighting shape was just doing the sparring, and that's what he was doing, 200 rounds of sparring, which is good to stay sharp, but not good for you overall. And we're hearing the effects of that kind of thing. But right. As far as Roy Jones came in shape, James Toney didn't, and Roy Jones beat him. That's it, and beat him easily. I picked James Toney in that fight. They had the uncivil war nonsense going on. I'm taking the guy from the north, and he gets his butt kicked easily. So, and as far as the Philly shell goes,
I don't even think if James Toney was at his best that he was going to beat Roy.
You know what? But it would have been a whole lot more competitive. I mean, a whole lot more based on what he's done. You know, and I know he hasn't faced a fighter like Roy. And you looked at he used Prince Charles Williams as a tune-up for Roy, and I remember how impressive that was. You know, when he came with that right hand, gave him the little fat Joe lean back, pushed him back on that one. And I was like, yeah, he's serious now. But Roy was just athletically so much better. Now, overall, skill-wise, I think people get it mixed up with Roy being extremely skilled and just being athletically gifted. He was skilled, but not highly skilled because he rarely used a jab. But he was extremely gifted because he could use that lead left hook as a jab. So that's the difference between, you know, saying how skilled he was.
He was different.
Exactly. And he had that power.
Phenomenal speed and reflexes were just too much for people.
Exactly. I remember when he knocked out Jorge Vaca in the first round. That's what I was like, yo, this. And because, of course, we all saw him. Most of us saw him in the Olympics. We saw him get robbed, but we saw the talent. And then you saw him in other fights. His father, that's why he got fired, was not really putting him in there with anyone. And they kind of like, you know, wasn't letting him go his own way. And I know there must have been more going on behind the scenes. But when he knocked out Jorge Vaca, a guy who was resilient, back then you had to be in that time period to really know that this guy was considered one of those horses that's going to let you know if you're a legitimate contender or not. He gets rid of him in one round, and then he moves on, just beating everybody else. A lot of nondescript guys, but then, you know, when he did fight the guys for the moment who had the name, James Toney being the biggest name, the B-Hop fight, a little different. The reason why, B-Hop, just I think 3 years before their fight, he was just 2-1. So that was one of those fighters they put on the fast track. Butch Lewis was his promoter, and he got the opportunity. Still a bit green, and looking back on it, it's feasible to say he might have been a bit green considering he was such a late bloomer.
That's true.
He gets him in the old. He gets them when they're both old. He beats them.
He was still developing his craft.
He was.
But you talking about blowing people out. The fight I remember was Thomas Tate. Tate had gone 12 rounds with Julian Jackson.
Yeah.
And so he's telling Roy before the fight, you're fighting somebody now. I guess not, because Roy took him out.
Ran through him. And, you know, people, as they're known to do, could say Julian Jackson just softened him up. That's why, you know, how they do that normal nonsense. But it was Roy, and I wish there was more for Roy to fight name-wise, people who looked at as top fighters. He didn't fight any of the British guys like Nigel Benn or Steve Collins. You know, he did Stevie Collins. He didn't fight any of those guys, you know, or Eubank and Michael Watson even. And he didn't fight those guys. And James Toney didn't either. He wanted to. And those guys, I remember they had that conference
I
from
don't blame
overseas.
him, man. He saw what they did to Gerald McClellan.
That would be more of a reason for him to want to do it, though, because McClellan was
Not
his
to go
boy.
over there, not when the ref
Oh, not
lets
to go over there. See,
not when the ref lets Ben hit McClellan with like
in
16,
the back of the
17
head.
rabbit punches and
God.
doesn't give him a warning or take punches. Yeah, I
Now,
don't blame Roy. I wouldn't go to England either.
and that's the one reason I didn't hold against Roy when people say he would even go overseas. After what happened in Korea in the Olympics, I think he was shell shocked from going over the seas when he was in his prime, at least. Later on when he's hanging on and just trying to get a buck or whatever he's doing, he's going overseas then and he gets knocked out. Seems not to really care as much as he did with his undefeated record and being the phenomenal talent he was. But I can see and understand why he didn't go over to Europe or anywhere out of the country after what happened in Korea, because anything can happen. And then you hear the BS stories out of Korea. Yes, that official was paid. You don't know whether it's true or not, but it seems like it was likely, and it was an Olympics, and you can't, you can't put it out of the realm of possibility that is exactly what had happened. Yeah, but Roy, yeah, he was just
when your opponent lifts you up and carries you around the ring,
yeah,
sending you to the crowd,
in your home country,
yeah,
in the Olympics, when he lost.
Right.
Those officials were probably pissed off. Put him down. Put him down. Right. We just gave you something. Just be proud. Be happy about it. Yeah, he knew what happened, man. That fight was ridiculous. You're talking about one of the biggest robberies, if not the biggest robbery in all of boxing, amateur, pro. And I know it's completely political a lot of times, but that, no doubt, in front of the global stage, did exactly that in terms of souring the image of boxing. And then, of course, I remember after Roy said, I don't think I'm going to turn pro. Bro, you're going to turn pro. And I'm glad you did.
Boxing fans cry robbery a lot. But that was one fight where the other dude didn't win one round. I don't think he won 1 minute of any round. I mean, it should have been a complete shutout.
That's exactly what it should have been, man.
Yeah,
those guys have no shame.
That has to be the biggest robbery in history.
They have no shame. And it reminds me of some of these, when these Olympics come around and how they show the propaganda in North Korea, how they show how their people won every gold medal, and it just bugs me out when they show this kind of thing. When over there in North Korea, they show their people, because everything is just state run. They show their people how they won these gold medals, and they have these fake athletes just coming through with medals on, like they just came from the Olympics and didn't even participate. But I guess they told them all along, yeah, these are your gold medal Olympiads for either the Summer Olympics or the Winter Olympics, and they have no choice but to believe it. And it's just nonsense. It's almost like the same thing with their soldiers making these parades with these medals going down to their freaking ankles, and the dudes haven't had a war since the 50s. Like, what the hell are you doing? Participation trophies on your chest. But anyways, Usyk now, in the pantheon of heavyweights, he has to be up there only because of nothing else. He came from a lighter weight, and even for his era, as weak as it might have been, he dominated those guys, gave them opportunities over, and dominated them again.
Okay, so when you say up there, like up where? Where are we talking?
So top 10. Didn't we have a top 10 a little while ago of heavyweights? So he's on that list now. So he's on that list.
Top 10?
I don't think he was on that list when we was on it. He's on that list now.
No, he wasn't. You think he's top 10 of all time heavyweight?
You have to put him at top 10 all time now.
Who was number 10 on your list? I don't remember mine.
Shoot. Man, on my list? God. Matter of fact,
go back and watch the show.
Yeah, but I shoot. But either whoever was at my top 10, whoever was in my 10th spot.
Like my 10, it might have been Holyfield. Do you think?
I think I had Holyfield at number 6 or 7, 8, somewhere on there. I think I did.
I don't have him. I don't think he's better than Holyfield, man. I think Holyfield gets in his ass.
Now that's the deal. Both of those guys were cruiserweights. Before Usyk came along, Holyfield was the best cruiserweight ever, in my opinion. Let alone the light heavyweight and what he had done in so few fights against Muhammad Dwight Kawi and won the light heavyweight title. And then in the rematch, has absolutely destroyed him. But then when he moved up to cruiserweight, he was up until Usyk the greatest cruiserweight ever, skill-wise and whatnot. That would have been a serious barn burner between him and Usyk at cruiserweight. And too bad we can't really compare it. We could talk about it, but there's just no way to find out for sure. And if you want to throw even Marciano in there, because he's essentially was a cruiserweight at 189 pounds and 84, 89, bouncing up and down. So would he beat? Does he beat Rocky Marciano?
I don't know. It's tough to say, man.
Now
You know how Rocky would walk through hell to get at you,
and he
man.
would. But how many southpaws have Rocky fought? Just the other day I was watching the second Tony La Stars of fighting Rocky.
Southpaws are sucker for right hands.
Huh? Oh yeah, they are. They're
Southpaws are
sucker.
sucker for
Yeah,
right hands.
you know what? They're sucker for right hands that are set up. Rocky just threw punches. It wasn't like he was. I'm gonna set you with this right hand. I'm gonna set a trap. He was the trap. He just chased you around the ring. He starts chopping you down. You get people who know they have to be a little slick and going by what Usyk did. Not to say that Dubois is Usyk and the movements he gave Dubois and confused him, had him just so tentative because of either the feints or the actual counters. He was one of those one-track mind fighters that he's not going to get intimidated, is not going to get deterred because you countered him a
His
few times.
nose was hanging off against Jersey Joe Walcott.
Against Eddie Charles.
He was Michael Myers before Michael Myers.
And that's true.
There's no stopping him.
And eventually that right hand is going to land somewhere.
I just don't think Usyk has enough to withstand that.
And that has to be a 15-round fight.
Rounds.
And it has to be a 15-round fight.
Right.
So that would be interesting in hell. But in terms of Holyfield being as good as he was as a cruiserweight, and he was a great heavyweight, but he was an even better cruiserweight. Now, if he fought Usyk in his original class of being cruiserweight, that would have been worth everything that Pacquiao Mayweather was supposedly had been, and it would have exceeded expectations. There's no way that could have been a boring fight because, first of all, Evander Holyfield doesn't have boring fights, and Usyk is so damn good he can't even make it boring if he wanted to. And so going down just a list of heavyweights that, okay, Marciano may not be Usyk. Now we do have Holyfield at heavyweight. He was one of the more rapid heavyweights only because he came up just like Usyk. He's faster than everybody. He has more skill because, he moved up to heavyweight. I know Michael Spinks was the first one to move up and beat Larry Holmes in '85, but, he was skilled, awkward as hell, but he was still an orthodox fighter, being awkward as hell. Usyk had, I'm not going to say he had much more.
Usyk solved the Spinks jinx?
Getting away from that right hand because, man, Usyk gives so much movement. He gives so much movement, and he's southpaw, and it's going to be such a pain in the butt. But no one's ever beaten Spinks at light heavyweight. So if this fight going to be a light heavyweight or heavyweight, and going by Tyson beat him in his last fight, I'm not going to say it shouldn't count, but come on, he was an older fighter, been through the wars as a light heavyweight, won the few heavyweight fights he did have, did make history against Larry Holmes twice, and he just, in that last fight, he said he was going to retire before the fight. So a lot of times the old school guys would tell you, once you start talking retirement, you're freaking retired. You just cash a check. And he got $13+ million for that damn fight. So he had a lot to look forward to. So yeah, man. And that Spinks jinx is someone who can set up that right hand, because that's what that jinx was. So Michael Spinks could set up the right hand and throw it at Usyk and see what goes on. But he's proven he can take shots to the head. It's those body shots he has a problem with. And that's when Rocky Marciano come in with those body shots. He tried to tear your liver out. And Lennox Lewis, now you get to the bigger guys, because Lennox Lewis said just the other day, I wish I could have fought him. I don't think he beats any version of Lennox Lewis.
I don't think so either.
Usyk. And now I did see someone say that he would beat Sonny Liston. That was intriguing to me. They were like, yeah, Usyk could beat Sonny Liston. I was like, damn, you know what? Liston did have the jab. He doesn't get a lot of credit for it because he was called a brute and beat you with his right hand and left hand, but the jab wasn't really what they remembered. But anyone who watched and anyone who knows,
they'll tell you about be effective against Usyk being a southpaw, though?
That's what I'm saying, too, because how many, even with Ali, I think skill-wise, Ali's up there with him. If you're talking about the Ali before the draft, in 1966, like when he fought Zero Foley and fought Cleveland Williams in 66, and that Ali who could stay on his toes for 15 rounds, but he only fought one southpaw in his reign. That was Carl Mildenberg, who was another European, but not like Usyk. So yeah, that would have been another interesting fight. He beats Ken. I think he beats Ken Norton. I don't know, man. I think Ken Norton's overrated as hell.
Ken Norton's not top 10, though.
Exactly. No, he's not top 10, but he's one of those elite
heavyweight. Chris Bird?
That would have been southpaw versus southpaw. Now that would have been something right there. He and Chris Bird. I don't even know what to say about those two. That would have been another one of those fights, man. That would have been like the opposite of what Holyfield would have done against Usyk, only because there'd have been a little bit, if not a lot more cerebral action going on.
Would
Like,
it have been like Fury versus Klitschko?
oh no, it wouldn't be like that. Nah, that was just flat out boring, man. And
Man,
there was a lot of skill being shown. It was more
I
Klitschko
want to say
losing.
that fight was in the afternoon here in the States.
Yep, it was. I watched it at
That was the first time I
Tony's
fallen
house.
asleep. Falling asleep like 2 o'clock in the afternoon in a long time. I woke up, it was the 11th round. I was like, what the hell happened? I watched, I was like, oh, nothing. That's why I fell
Oh,
asleep.
nothing. That's why I went to sleep to begin with.
Man,
The one fighter that I
fight was
thought,
terrible.
oh, it was awful. And I thought, and for Tyson Fury to sing afterwards as if he done something great, and bro, get the hell, man. I still said it was an older Klitschko losing the fight more than what it was Fury winning the fight, and it was a boring fight, but Fury ended up winning anyways and whatever. And I just thought that if Klitschko was just younger, just like against AJ, if he was just a little younger, he beats both of them, but he didn't. He wouldn't. The one fight I thought would be just like Usyk was Tomas Adamek. Remember him?
Yeah.
I thought he was going to be what Usyk is now. And no, he just couldn't do it. You know, they moved him up a little bit. He beat Michael Grant. I was like, yeah, he beat Michael Grant, even though it was an old Michael Grant who I didn't have a lot of, not respect for, but I didn't think he was that great. I didn't think he was that good. And Adamek beat an old Michael Grant and proved that he wasn't. But now Usyk just naming all these heavyweights that he could have fought back in the day and trying to compare and see how good he is now as to what those guys are and where would he belong on a top 10 list. I think he now cracks the top 10. And does he only crack it because he beat this era's fighters, or is his skill level worthy of being on that top 10 list as well?
I don't agree he's top 10, but I think we gave it 36 plus minutes. I'd like to move on now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, what's going on? The NFL. So I know that the Honey Badger retires today. I mean, kind of quiet 3 times. You know, yeah, exactly. I mean, if you're talking about just news that happened, people decide to retire right before the training camp this week. Come on, man. You would think that, you know, you give your team a little bit more of a heads up, or did you tell your team earlier? You know what? I'll give you a little bit of a thought right before the training camp starts, especially if you look at their draft and saw that they picked up another defensive back anyway, either high round or whatever. But yeah, he's retired.
We have to acknowledge the passing of Ozzy Osbourne, man.
Oh, you know what? I was just about to mention him when I was talking about Tyson Fury singing. it just passed right by. Yeah, but Ozzy Osbourne, man, the lead singer of Black Sabbath, passes away at 76 years old, I believe. But 76 years old.
I'm not sure of his age, but
I know he had that the reality show in addition to his Hall of Fame career, you know. But you read some of these comments and people are, you know, talking about his music and talking about him as a person, but every now and then you have this person who talks about surprised. Are you surprised he's dead now after what he's been through? It should have been before. You know, you don't say it now that he's passed away, but a mega star. There's no question about that.
I'm not really into Black Sabbath, but they have some all-time great songs, man. Like their best songs are fucking classics.
And he was the lead singer of those guys. And man, look at these people. Malcolm Jamal Warner, if you want to even go back to someone who just passed away, and we're not even thinking about it. On the coast of Costa Rica, drowning, one of those huge currents which Costa Rica is known for.
Is that what happened?
Caught up in, and he passes away. He actually got sucked up on Sunday. They found him yesterday.
Damn.
Yeah, man. Oh, my God. With his family, the whole nine, man. So
like just right there off the beach?
Right off the beach, right off the coast of Costa Rica. He and his family were down there vacationing. You know, he's an old Jersey guy, but he lived in California, I believe. A wife and daughter, and I'm glad that he did what he did with his wife, because he was one of these few guys who really kept things private. No one really even knew that he was married. They knew when he was dating other people, you know, in the past. And I think his co-host from the Cosby Show, one of his co-workers at the Cosby Show, he was dating at one point. Then Regina King, he was dating. So you heard about those because they were already popular. But then his wife, you didn't know anything about until just yesterday for the most part. And that he had a daughter, and they talked about him on Instagram when his wife was expecting him taking the belly pick and all that. Now he's gone. In 2 back-to-back days, you lose him and lose Ozzy Osbourne. God, it reminded me of losing James Brown, and then the next day was Gerald Ford, and people forgot about James Brown. You know, like, yeah, what's going on? Well, God, but
Yeah, but what do you think about the WNBA wearing those T-shirts
man,
saying
come
"Show
on,
us
you
your
already know.
flaws"?
What money are you owed? You owe money. What are
That's
you
what I
talking
asked.
about?
That's the question I asked. Like, I'm all for people getting their money and their worth, but please explain to me what money is owed to you.
You've proven that you're not worth it, apparently, because no one support you enough to get you the money that you want. Now, they're going to get that new money because of Caitlin Clark in particular. I think it was a $2+ billion that's coming in. But they're talking about, I think this being a pain in the butt about it, I don't know what it does in negotiations. And then I hear Angel Reese talking about negotiations. If I want to hear about negotiations that sound thorough or crystal clear, I don't want it coming from her because she speaks more emotionally than any damn thing else. What they deserve. Well, she's speaking like the rest of them. We deserve
Yeah,
this,
but her comment saying we're not bluffing, we'll sit.
bro. Really?
I don't
Okay.
think she's the one to be making that comment unless she's in there, part of the union and
Union rep. Yep.
negotiating. I
And
don't
I
think she
doubt
has
that.
any business, but I mean, whatever.
But
I don't know, but she fancies herself as the face of the league. So
yeah, she's in her own little bubble. But overall, was it Chelsea Plum is the one who's getting all the problems right now? They're really coming after her.
they
She's the one,
should, man. She's a hating ass bitch.
and she's saying a whole bunch of nonsense. I mean, exactly what do you deserve? You owe us. Okay, you've been subsidized all these years. You've never turned a profit. And what are you owed if the tables are reversed, which they probably should have been? I think each one of you owe a couple of $1 million, a couple of $100 million, or a couple of $1 million a piece, or a couple of 100,000 a piece until they get back all the money that's been invested. I don't know if they're only thinking about just the salaries they're getting. I don't even think they're thinking about even the most, not even minute details, but things like renting the arenas that no one shows up to, you know? And then now they're taking planes. They started doing last year, started taking charter jets instead of just kind of getting your butt on a regular Spirit flight and having a fight before you get to your game.
My coworker asked a good question though, but if they don't have money, then how can they bring in 3 expansion teams?
Because if it's like business, a lot of times like Amazon was not bringing in a profit for a long time until it started bringing into a profit, but only because these investors looked forward and saw what they were doing and they knew that business model would bring more money. So I guess now with Caitlin Clark there, and even to Angel Reese, and because there's a lot more eyes on it, it looks like good debt if they brought it in, that they can turn a bad debt. Well, it looks like good debt, in fact, that they can bring in and make good on it, because they weren't talking about this too much before Caitlin Clark came. Now the Caitlin Clark effect, and maybe even the Angel Reese effect, is the reason why. Okay, if we bring in 3 more teams, now when the wave is about to go high because they didn't have that $2 billion deal beforehand, maybe bringing them in is going to be worth it. You can kind of turn that into good debt. I'm thinking that's because, like Amazon, they weren't making any money, but people kept putting millions and millions of dollars, billions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars in debt. But people kept on putting money in. All these people who knew what the hell they were doing, we on the outside who aren't in tune with that type of finance, why they keep giving money to this company? But you saw the business model, you saw what it was going to be, and now everyone is happy because they paid off. And so I'm thinking it's probably the same with that when it comes to business. Those 3 teams, seeing the way things are looking like they're on the upswing, let's bring those 3 teams in. We're going to capitalize on it. We could now subsidize those with that new money coming in. And then they're going to bring more money because of the cities they're in and the popularity of the WNBA. I think that's going to, and I think it may be a good move, but they need to calm down with the rhetoric, because in the present time, they're pissing people off. These are your future fans.
Yeah, and I'm not sure this is the time for a work stoppage. Like they're
Exactly, when the
growing,
momentum's on their side.
they're growing more than they ever have before, and it's kind of like baseball back in '94. They didn't play a World Series, and it took a few seasons for the fans to come back.
It took the juice ball for the fans to come back.
True, but that's a sport that had fans for decades.
Yep, decades.
For decades.
America's pastime.
WNBA, they have new eyeballs, man. If you shut it down now, I don't know if those people come back.
That's just a bluff. It has to be. Someone behind closed doors is saying something to these girls. All right, just calm down the rhetoric. Still be vocal, but be judicious with what you're vocal about. That's what they're saying. Because there's no way you can just come out as angry as they're sounding, as if they're really pissed off about not getting the money. I watch these idiotic podcast. Not even watch them. I see clips because they happen to come through like on YouTube. And I'm seeing Angel Reese being interviewed by this so-called whoever on this podcast. But you're doing exactly what LeBron is doing. How come you're not getting paid the same? Another woman, of course, saying it. Obviously, doesn't have any clue about basketball. She just knows that Angel Reese is a basketball player, and she's on her side, so she's asking this kind of crap. But then Angel Reese, instead of saying, wait a minute, at least a little bit of, yeah, that's LeBron James, that's the NBA. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Really? No, you don't.
Man, I would be willing to bet that 90% plus of NBA games sell out.
Oh, easily.
And I'd also be willing to bet that probably 10% or less of WNBA games sell out. And then of that percentage is probably 90% or better Indiana Fever games.
Indiana Fever, exactly. And where they go to play. You know, when they start going to other teams and then the attendance goes up and the numbers don't lie. I mean, it's not even a point of contention. It's not even an argument anymore about what their effect is as a team. When they're home, they're selling out ridiculously. When they go on the road, they're selling out, or they got a much higher attendance than they normally would have had. You go from your usual 7,000 to now you got 15,000. And then in some cases, you got to move the game to a bigger venue, which is typically the men's venue, just to facilitate the influx that's coming in from what you're used to having. Yeah. And
did you hear Angel Reese sat out their last game before the All-Star break? Supposedly, she said she wants to be 100% for the All-Star game.
See, that's another. Well, that's more of a microcosm of her selfish nature.
That's bogus as hell.
That's a selfish nature.
You start playing well. You're putting up 20 and 15. You're shooting better than 50%. You know, you have a good 5-6 game streak. And you're like, oh, I got to show up for the All-Star game. I got to rest up. I mean, are you trying to get your team to the playoffs, or are you just all about yourself?
Well, we already know that part. And for her saying that accentuates what we've already thought, or for the people who have a brain thought that she was selfish like that. If she really said that she wanted to hold out there just to look good in the All-Star game, that's ridiculous. If an NBA player would have said that, that guy would have been roasted from beginning to end. Yeah, and I know they know even better to say something like that. I want to rest because I want to look good during the All-Star game. In baseball, they don't even do that. You know, so I know, but I think we're getting to a point to where whatever she says is pretty expected because it's normally out there some damn where, and it's always about her and its selfishness. So whatever. And her game has gotten better. And we already know whether it's the WNBA or even the NBA baseball, that when you're on a hot streak, it is that All-Star game that kind of throws you off, and you kind of either continue on what you were doing or you kind of fall off. And a lot of times teams fall off a bit or players fall off because of that break. You know, you broke them in that continuity of just having good game after good game after good game. You kind of like fall off a little bit. And so hopefully it doesn't happen to her, because I remember still back just a few years ago when Aaron Judge was looking great hitting that baseball. He gets into the home run derby. Then the second half of the season, oh my God, the guy act like he never saw baseball before. Things just changed. So that's a possibility with her with the WNBA. But man, that's enough of WNBA talk, I guess. With Caitlin Clark still injured, this groin isn't going away. A groin, and for as hard as she plays, as much as she's run the floor, the groin doesn't go away. It feels a little better, like she thought it did, but then she re-aggravated it, and there she is again, missing the All-Star game, missing the three-point shooting contest. And I don't know what the future is going to hold in terms of this season as far as this injury. It's never going to get back to 100%. It just isn't, because that's the type of injury that doesn't just go away. You need a long term to get that thing right.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for her.
It is.
I don't know if she'll be back this season.
Exactly.
More in time for the playoffs.
I wouldn't be unhappy if she did miss the rest of the season because of this groin. I mean, I had a tweaked groin before, there's a pain in the butt. So she has a real hurt groin. I mean, it's really freaking injured. And for her to kind of come back and then go back, and this has just been an injury-plagued season for her anyways. So, and I know people want to use that against her. See, she can't even stay on the court. It's always one thing. If it's not one thing, it's the other. And it's always the people who decide to hate on her want to bring up nonsense like that as if other athletes don't get injured. But anyway, football's coming up. Football's coming up. What's going on in your neck of the woods? Anything special about what's going on in Chicago? I mean, this is as hot as it gets right now because training camp's opening up.
I haven't really paid attention. You know, I'm not a preseason guy. I see thumbnails on YouTube. Caleb Williams going to flourish in Ben Johnson's offense. Um, different titles. Bears have weapons for Caleb. Bears this, Bears that. But I don't click on them. I don't watch them. I haven't been watching the NFL
But what
Network
about
or ESPN. I'm just not following it right now.
just general
I talked
news,
to my
like
friend the other
driving to work?
day. I don't listen to sports radio on the way to work.
Oh, all right.
Listen to Spotify.
Neither do I, tell you
But
the truth.
anyway, I was talking to my homie Todd the other day. We were talking about the Bears, and you know what he did? He for the first time probably in our friendship history, he didn't start an argument. Because I told him, hey, the Bears did this offseason what they did last offseason. They brought in linemen. They traded for Keenan Allen. They did this. They did that. This year, they brought in linemen. They drafted a wide receiver. They drafted a tight end. They're giving Caleb Williams weapons. It's 2 years in a row they're doing the same thing.
But they have a coach, though.
I can't be excited. Do we know that? He's never been a head coach.
You know what? He's never been a head coach before, but
I don't know that. So
there has to be some.
The coach has to show
optimism of what he's done.
The coach has to
Detroit
show
Lions.
improve. Yeah, I can be optimistic, but I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid. I'm not eating the popcorn. I'm waiting to see. You got to show me. I mean, there's been too many times where the Bears, hey, we got this guy, we got that guy, and we're gonna run this defense, and we're gonna do this, and we're gonna do that, and then they end up 5-13 or 5-12, 5-11, whatever. Hey, you got to show it to me. I'm not going all in on the Bears season till I see what they look like.
You know, I don't even think you have to go all in, but I think there should be a degree of optimism, seeing that they're still just even continuing from what they did last year, adding more talent. Now you know that second year with the quarterback is usually where you start seeing some noticeable differences, especially now with the passing game being what it is in the NFL. And now you do have Ben Johnson, and just knowing what he had done with the Detroit Lions.
I tell you what, though, Bears fans would go crazy if in that first game there's a 3rd and long and he calls a screenplay.
hey, what's wrong with a screenplay? Or 3rd and long?
Never works. It never works.
Well, it depends on who's running that damn ball.
But see, here's the thing. If you're a fan of other teams, you're like, well, it works when we do it. Maybe because you don't do it 7 times a game.
Oh, yeah. Well, the Jets doesn't work either.
15 years in a row. I mean, it's the Bears. That's their MO. 3rd and long, dump it off.
Man, well, I guess that doesn't see too much optimism until they have to show improve. And the preseason isn't where they're going to show improve. Even though things are different now in the preseason for the NFL. They have fewer, was it 3 games or 4? I don't even know how many games they've played anymore. I don't even keep up on the NFL like I used to, because it's just a different product from what I'm used to seeing. And I was telling someone a little earlier, I'm sitting back watching old videos of Lawrence Taylor, man. I mean, seriously, just sitting back watching hours of Lawrence Taylor because you miss what football used to be. I'm watching old introductions with Hank Williams Jr. from 1991 because they showed those players that we used to seeing back then. Watching Freeman McNeil and seeing Christian Okoye and seeing Steve Atwater, all those guys, Jerry Rice in the end zone catching a touchdown in a Niners uniform and not a Raiders uniform or even Seattle. But and today, it's just not the same. It just isn't. And I know they're doing it for the health of the players, but it just isn't the same football we grew up with. That's all.
Speaking of going back, have you seen the commercial for NBC NBA?
No, I hadn't seen it.
They bring in a whole lot of people. The
old school.
Yeah, they're saying it's back this fall.
Now we're watching because of MJ. We got, that's the reason why I'm watching. I'm looking forward to hearing what MJ is going to say. I know everybody.
I even forgot MJ was going to be on the broadcast.
And they're just waiting to hear what
for MJ.
I mean, I just want to hear what the hell he's going to say. I mean, we know that he doesn't take prisoners. We knew, you hear the stories of what he had done and while he was playing in practice, hitting players and really pushing them and really getting on their nerves. Even younger players, and the reason why they claim the Wizards let him go.
I want to see him do a Grizzlies game so he can critique Ja Morant. I want to see him do a T-Wolves game so he can critique Anthony Edwards.
Anthony Edwards, because he's talking the most crap about him.
And, of course, the Lakers game so we can see or hear what he has to say about LeBron. That's a clear flop. That's a clear flop. He should be embarrassed.
Is he trying to put a nice spin on it, like a lot of these guys are doing? Even Tony Romo, actually Tony Romo wasn't being a nice guy. He was saying a bunch of things, but his over the top has been over the top, so it takes away from even when he gives them legitimate criticism. I'm thinking that MJ is going to tell it like it is, but he's always been dignified when he spoke, at least publicly. So he's going to say it in a nice way, but you're going to know exactly what the hell he means when he's talking about it, whether it's a flop.
But you got all these LeBron lovers coming out with stuff. Jordan can't go left. Jordan played against plumbers. Jordan this.
I heard
Jordan
about that.
So, and you know how petty Jordan can be. You know how petty he can be.
He gonna say
so
shit.
He can go in at all of them with a couple comments about LeBron.
Whew, man, how long that lasts? And then imagine him having to interview LeBron after a game. I don't think he's going out there on the floor to interview players. He's not going to be Eric Dickerson like Monday Night Football. Tonight's wet because it's raining. Okay, nice insight. Let's move on.
There's times where LeBron, he'll turn the ball over, doesn't hustle down court, or he'll look around doing like this, like it was someone else's fault.
Yeah,
turn the ball over. I want to hear what MJ has to say. Yell at him. Defense. Get your ass down court. Hustle back.
But I've been playing since I'm 40 years old playing. You didn't get there, that nonsense. But we'll see how that goes. But until then, we have up until Thursday. And the way news has been going, I think things are going to pick up a lot more anyway with the NFL getting closer. We're talking about the Hall of Fame game. What is it, next week? I think the Hall of Fame game next week, Saturday or somewhere around there. But anyway, the NFL is already here.
I don't watch preseason.
NFL
I don't watch preseason, nothing. Spring training baseball, preseason basketball, preseason football, none of it.
Well, I might just check out a Jaguar practice or so. Maybe not, but it doesn't matter one way or the other.
I tuned into Midnight Madness for college basketball.
Now that's legit. I could dig that.
I was so disappointed. I was like, I wasted my time. This is why I don't watch preseason.
Well, college, it's for the crowd anyway to get into that basketball mood and just have it's a big jamboree.
I love college basketball. I was fired up. I said, man, let me check out this Midnight Madness. Man, it was whack.
Well, Midnight Madness here in Jacksonville area, because Gainesville is only about 60 miles away, is going to be loud and rowdy because the defending NCAA basketball champs, the Gators, will be starting their 25-26 season. But until Thursday, we'll have to sit around and see who decides to step out of bounds or who decides to do something big, football or other sports-wise. Until Thursday, deuces.
Adios.